Welcome to the Deep Dive. We explore intriguing ideas, see where they might connect to the real world. And today, wow, you've sent us down a path that's usually, pure science fiction, parallel universes. But we're not just talking movies here. We're digging into how this idea might actually link up with our own experiences.
Exactly. And we've got this fascinating YouTube transcript to look at a discussion with a hypnotherapist, a PLR therapist. It offers a really unique angle on all this.
Right.
So our mission today really is to see what insights we can pull from that about parallel universes and maybe what it could mean for us,
And guiding us through this, we're lucky to have a very experienced hypnotherapist and PLR therapist with us. So let's just jump right into the big one. Do parallel universes actually exist?
Yeah, that's the multi-million-dollar question, isn't it? The honest answer, it's still very much under research. There's no definitive scientific yes or no right now.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of, let's say, anecdotal evidence building up and theoretical ideas suggesting connections could be possible. Think about it like this. Every choice you make, right, it leads down one path. But what about the other path, the choice you didn't make? Well, one theory suggests that each choice actually splits off, creating a whole new, separate universe.
Oh.
Yeah, leading to this idea of a huge multiverse, like you see in the comics and stuff.
Right, yeah. Like Doctor Strange or that movie The One. All those infinite realities. Is it possible those wild ideas actually come from, real connections?
Well, it's an interesting thought, isn't it? I mean, imagination rarely comes from absolutely nowhere. There's usually some kind of reference point in reality, even if it's indirect.
Like what?
Okay, think about, say, old movies. The dacoits, the outlaws, they were often based on real people, real events, but maybe, amplified. Or take superheroes' amazing powers, totally fictional, right? But maybe the idea of abilities beyond what we normally see, maybe that's commonplace in another reality.
Interesting analogy. So if we're all interconnected here, networks, relationships, could that connection stretch across to these parallel selves?
That's kind of the next logical step, yeah. If interconnectedness is fundamental here, why wouldn't it potentially bridge across realities? Maybe these links show up subtly, perhaps in our dreams or when we're in really deep meditation. Definitive answers, still tricky, but exploring the possibilities, that's where things get interesting.
Okay, speaking of possibilities, in your work with past life regression, PLR, have you ever had sessions where it felt less like a past life and more like tapping into a different universe?
Yes, actually. I recall one specific case. A patient kept having these incredibly vivid, recurring dreams of a completely different world.
Really?
Yeah, and with beings, inhabitants, totally unlike anything they'd ever seen or read about. And the compelling part, they consciously stopped watching sci-fi, stopped reading fantasy, anything that could possibly inspire it. But the dreams kept coming.
Wow. So what were they like, these dreams?
They weren't just random images. They were consistent, coherent, like visiting the same place over and over. The landscape, the way things were built, the people or beings, it all stayed the same.
Consistent details.
Exactly. And this consistency over years actually led the patient to research things like parallel universes. They started wondering, am I actually seeing another reality? And that's what brought them to PLR. They wanted to understand where these dreams were coming from.
So what happened in the regression?
Well, during the session, the patient experienced living a life in that other world, the one from the dreams. And fascinatingly, it mirrored their current life in some basic ways. Similar relationships, challenges, growth themes, but the setting, totally different. Even their physical form was slightly different.
And how did it feel to them?
Profoundly real. That's the word they use. Not like a fantasy, not just imagination. And here's the really impactful bit. By seeing how they handled things in that dreamed life, certain patterns, they actually found new ways, positive solutions for problems they were stuck on right here in this life.
That's incredible. But, the skeptic argues the brain's powerful. It can create amazing fantasies.
Oh, for sure. And you can't discount imagination. But the patient, they were utterly convinced it was more than that. They kept saying this wasn't of this planet. They stressed the details weren't learned anywhere, not books, not movies. And crucially, these details stayed constant for 6-7 years. Yeah, that kind of sustained, consistent, unlearned detail, it really pushes the boundaries of just imagination, doesn't it?
So you think it's plausible they were tapping into a parallel life?
It certainly points strongly in that direction, yes.
Yeah.
And interestingly, once the patient started to understand it, integrate the potential lessons, The dreams became less frequent, like their purpose was served.
Which brings us back to dreams. Could they be a sort of gateway more than we think? You mentioned astral travel earlier. How does that connect?
Well, traditionally, astral travel is seen as the consciousness, or soul, leaving the body to explore. Let's call it the spiritual world, a metaphysical place beyond physical space-time. So dreams, in that view, could be the mind processing those non-physical journeys. Maybe encoding experiences from other realities, the vividness your patient felt, that being there feeling. It might really reflect a genuine connection. Another place, familiar feelings, different details.
It reminds me of a friend. Lives in Rishikesh. Very spiritual place. They sometimes get these sudden, intense waves of anger out of nowhere. They're usually very calm. Could that be?
Yeah.
Like bleed through from a parallel self.
It's definitely a possibility to consider. It fits that idea that even imagination or strong, unexplained feelings might have an origin point somewhere, or resonance. Your friend checked their own life, right? No obvious cause for the anger.
Right, nothing. They tracked everything.
See, but the principle holds. Nothing in the universe is truly random, truly without cause. If we can't see the cause in our immediate view, well, maybe we need to widen the lens, Look beyond the 360 degrees we normally perceive.
Widen the lens. I like that.
Yeah.
So we might pick up echoes. Could that work for good stuff too? Joy, inspiration, like how twins sometimes seem connected.
Absolutely. Why not? If negative emotions could resonate, positive ones could too. That twin connection, that deep empathy. Maybe it's a similar thing, just amplified by a strong energetic bond. And practices like meditation, they tend to raise our energy frequency, right? That could make us more receptive, more aware of these subtle inputs from, elsewhere, including parallel universes. It all feeds into self-discovery, really. Knowing yourself might mean understanding your existence beyond just this one life, this one body.
Which leads to a really deep question. The soul. If there are parallel universes, is it the same soul living all these lives?
Right.
Or is it more like pieces of a bigger master soul spread out?
Yeah, that's a big one. And honestly, there are kind of two main schools of thought there, and it's all still being explored. One idea is, yes, multiple interconnected souls, each on their own journey in different universes. And eventually they all merge back together into one whole, like reaching moksha, oneness.
Okay, theory one.
Theory two is more like there's one big overarching master soul. And what we experience as individual souls in different realities are actually just facets, expressions of that single larger consciousness.
So those intuitive connections we feel sometimes, like a mother just knowing something's up with her child,
Right.
even miles away. Could that be an echo of that shared soul essence, even across different realities?
That's definitely a plausible way to interpret it, yeah.
Yeah.
Those deep bonds might reflect something fundamental, a shared essence, but again, it's still very much in the realm of exploration. Lots of unknowns.
And scientifically, we have the multiverse theory, but we can't exactly, pop over to another universe to check.
Right, the technology isn't there.
Which makes me wonder, thought. Could pure thought energy be powerful enough? Could that be a way to connect, maybe even contact, our parallel selves?
It's interesting. I've heard theories, read about ideas suggesting that maybe some advanced extraterrestrial intelligences might use thought itself, consciousness energy, for interdimensional travel.
Really?
Yeah, the idea being they figured out how to harness their mind's energy to move between dimensions. It sort of connects to things like telekinesis, right? Moving objects with the mind. Maybe what sci-fi for us is just physics for them. And our fascination is like a faint memory of that possibility.
So if thought can move objects, could it move us? Not just physically, but between universes. That would explain how beings could travel vast distances, unlike our current rockets.
It's a logical leap, isn't it? From moving things outside us to moving ourselves across dimensions. It's speculative, sure, but it opens up some really fascinating doors, conceptually.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Time. We know time isn't fixed, even here. Einstein, black holes, all that. How different could time be in parallel universes?
Oh, massively different, potentially. You're right, time isn't absolute. It's relative. It's the fourth dimension, tied up with space. Gravity, speed they affected here. So it stands to reason that in universes with different physical laws, different energy structures, time itself could operate very differently. Think of it like people with different length arms doing the same task. One might finish faster. different physical structure, different time experience for that task. Maybe parallel universes have different mental or energetic structures affecting time.
So time isn't fixed, especially for the soul. You mentioned the fifth dimension earlier.
Right. When we talk about the soul or spiritual energy work, it's often described as operating beyond our usual 4 dimensions. And that higher dimensional state, linear time, it just doesn't apply in the same way. The soul can access, perceive, let's say, past, present, future, much more fluidly, like jumping to any point on a recording instantly.
Okay, let's bring in karma and soul lessons. If we're living multiple lives in parallel universes,
Yeah.
maybe learning different things, racking up different karma, how does that all reconcile? For the master soul or the final merging?
Okay, think of it like a big family. Maybe 5 kids, right? One becomes a doctor, one an artist, one an engineer. They all learn different things, gain unique knowledge,
Right.
but all that collective knowledge benefits the whole family, yeah. It broadens the family's overall understanding. It's similar maybe on a soul level. Each parallel life is like a different course the soul is taking. Different lessons, different experiences, it all adds to the soul's total evolution. So when those aspects merge, they bring this incredibly rich, diverse collection of experiences and wisdom.
So even if one parallel life is, say, super successful and another is full of struggle, they both teach something valuable.
Exactly. Every single experience, positive or negative from our limited view, it's all educational input for the soul. Navigating challenges, clearing karmic debts, learning lessons across all these lives, it all contributes to a more complete understanding, preparing the soul for that ultimate merging, or just for navigating the universe more wisely.
It's fascinating, how Western science historically pushed back against ideas like the Earth being round, things ancient Indian knowledge already had. Is that resistance itself a kind of soul lesson in acceptance? And are we seeing it again with parallel universes? So much skepticism.
That's a really sharp observation. Yes, you could definitely see historical resistance to truth as a collective lesson for humanity. Learning openness, and yeah, maybe we are seeing echoes of that now with concepts like the multiverse. Lots of people are quick to dismiss it. Perhaps it's another step in our collective soul's journey, expanding our view of reality, challenging our neat little boxes.
As a psychologist, I always wonder about the brain's power. Is it really possible for us to just imagine entire consistent parallel worlds? Or is our imagination more like an antenna picking up signals from actual multiverse realities?
Well, just saying, oh, it's only imagination feels a bit limiting, doesn't it? Historically, maybe in purer cultural states with fewer rigid dogmas, people explored inner worlds more freely. Think about the profound knowledge in ancient texts. Astronomy, philosophy, spirituality often gained through introspection, not just external measurement. Maybe our current tendency to dismiss comes from, I don't know, a lack of curiosity, a desire to keep things simple and controllable. We should really foster that hunger for knowledge, be willing to explore even the outlandish.
Yeah, it often feels like people who mock these ideas might be doing it out of their own insecurity, maybe, fear of the unknown. And then people who do have these kinds of mystical experiences, they stop talking about them. Fear of being judged, called crazy.
Precisely. Which is why the self-journey is so personal. If an experience, a belief, helps you, brings positive change, fosters growth, that's what matters. External validation isn't the point. Sure, someone can say placebo effect, and maybe sometimes it plays a part, but real, lasting change, especially something like resolving deep karmic patterns, that usually requires tapping into something true, not just wishful thinking. We put blinders on ourselves, don't we? Like horses, restricting our view. Maybe daily meditation, even just a few minutes, can help gently widen that view, open us up to, well, whatever the universe wants to communicate.
So for listeners who are drawn to this, could something like past life regression or other therapies actually be used to consciously try and connect with these parallel selves?
I think PLR, when approached with the right intention and flexibility, is probably the most suitable tool we currently have for attempting that. You can sort of tweak the process, guide the intention beyond just past lives. The key is being open, trying, and not getting discouraged if it doesn't happen instantly. It's exploration.
What about those stories you hear? Someone with no training suddenly knows incredible detail about quantum physics or ancient history, or speaks a language they never learned, past life knowledge. Or could it be a link to a parallel self who's an expert?
It absolutely could be either, or both. When someone seems lost in this life but suddenly channels this deep wisdom, where does it come from? It could easily be residual knowledge from a past life where they were that expert, or, yes, a subconscious connection, a tapping into a parallel self who's living that intellectual life right now. Remember, the universe is within us, so multiple universes could be too, in a sense. Both past and parallel experiences could feed into that unexpected knowledge.
Thinking about diversity, languages. We see how Sanskrit, for example, branched into many different languages here. Could totally different languages exist, having originated in other universes?
That's an interesting angle. Based on linguistic research here, language seems to evolve through transmission, change over time, geographical spread, like the paths diverging from Sanskrit. So the idea of languages just popping up, fully formed from another universe, it doesn't quite fit how we understand language evolution currently. It seems more likely they'd follow similar evolutionary paths, even if they started differently elsewhere, but it's a fun thought.
What about soul scripts, soul families? Do souls in parallel universes have similar scripts, similar soul groups they interact with, even if the bodies and details are different?
The core soul script, the main lessons, the intentions for growth, yeah, that could be quite similar across different parallel lives. But the expression would vary wildly. Imagine two people born into immense wealth. Same script element, perhaps. But one has a loving family, learns gratitude. The other has a difficult family, learns about detachment or the pitfalls of materialism. Same starting point, different lessons, different life path. The specifics change.
Okay, this has been really mind-bending. I had this dream once, super vivid. I was dreaming, knew I was dreaming, then realized I was dreaming that dream inside another dream. Like layers, nested realities. It made me think, could this reality right now be a dream of a parallel self?
Wow, that's a classic dream within a dream experience. It's quite common, actually. And yes, if we accept the possibility of connecting with parallel selves in dreams, then sure, maybe you tapped into an awareness of another you who was also dreaming. Imagine multiple Elas, all asleep, different layers of dream awareness flickering between them. Or, the simpler explanation is brain processing, maybe influenced by a movie you saw. But the parallel universe idea, it's definitely a possibility to keep on the table.
It kind of echoes that old philosophical idea, right? That our whole existence is just a dream in the mind of God or some higher power.
Exactly. It's often used that way, philosophically, like those famous quotes telling us not to take life too seriously, to enjoy the ride. It's a way to frame existence, to find perspective.
So wrapping this up, for listeners who've had these kinds of mystical glimpses or who are just fascinated by all this, what's the main takeaway? How can they use this in their actual lives?
I think these experiences, whether they're dreams or intuitions or something else, often serve as wake-up calls, invitations to broaden our vision, to recognize there might be more to reality than just the physical world we see every day. They can hint at potential we have, skills or strengths we haven't tapped into in this life. Seeing a parallel self succeed at something, even in a fleeting glimpse, that can be incredibly motivating. It shows you your potential exists somewhere.
Like in the one, but maybe less violent.
Yeah.
Gaining the knowledge of what's possible.
Exactly. Minus the fighting. It's like why we listen to motivational music or watch athletes train. We're looking for that spark, that reminder of potential. If you can't find the strength or inspiration you need right here, maybe the universe, in its wisdom, shows you that strength existing in another version of you. So the final thought is really, open your limits. Become limitless. Don't stay restricted by what you think is possible.
That's a powerful place to end. Thank you so much for sharing all your expertise and these fascinating ideas with us today. It's been brilliant.
My pleasure entirely. It's a deep topic.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, if this deep dive sparked something for you, please share it, especially if you know someone who's had similar experiences and maybe felt a bit alone with them. As we said, this is new territory, lots still under research. We probably raise more questions than answers, but maybe we can tackle some related ideas in the future.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.